I'm Helgi. I'm from Iceland, where I did my bachelor's degree in physics. And I'm usually, when I tell people that I then ended somehow up in Portugal, I'm asked why. And there's actually a nice connection here throughout a lot of the talks today. I was actually present at the Marshall Grossman 13th meeting in Stockholm back in 2012 as a master's student in Stockholm. Didn't meet anyone out of the people who've talked today who were there. But it was actually the first connection, because I did attend a talk by Carlos and then eventually sent him an email while I was looking for PhDs and stuff, and ended up eventually at the start of 2013 as a, we got a short research grant to kind of evaluate whether I would be suitable for a PhD in the group, which I ended up being. And then I joined the group officially at the start of 2014 in the MapFizz PhD program, which has been mentioned a few times today. And I finished in 2017, and you can see the picture there from my defense. Like I said earlier, it's been very fun catching up on the status of the research group. I haven't honestly been paying attention to research since I finished my PhD 8 years ago. So it's been really, really nice paying attention today and listening in, and just thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. So my talk is basically going to be a very short summary of the research that I did while I was a part of the group. Then I'll go through some fun memories, mainly of the travels that I got to do. As many of the people today who have been talking have said, a huge part of being part of the group is getting to travel both around the world and within Portugal and Brazil and all of that. So I'm going to summarize a few of those, and then I'll tell you a few things about the things that I'm doing today. Which you're getting a hint at it from the background, but I'll tell you all about it later. So during my first months in Aveiro, I worked with Carlos and Juan Carlos on the rapid growth of superradiant instabilities for charged black holes in a cavity, which was supposed to have a different name, like Juan Carlos told you about earlier, but ended up with this long title. Then after joining the group as a PhD student, I worked on a number of papers, namely a lot of the self-interacting scalar hair around black holes, shadows of those black holes, more lensing, the Kerr black holes with Proca hair, and eventually the Kerr-Newman black holes with scalar hair, which was my last paper during the PhD. Like I told you earlier, I'm from Iceland, which is considerably farther north than Portugal. So when I moved to Portugal, I actually thought that I was moving to a very different climate than I was used to. But I guess I forgot my geography, because the climate in where I live in Iceland is almost completely controlled by the Gulf Stream. And Aveiro happens to be also very windy, like someone mentioned earlier. This is actually the first pictures that I took in Aveiro back in 2013 from my first weekend in the country, where there had been a storm and a bunch of trees had been ripped out of the ground, and I basically asked myself, like, where even am I? I thought I was going to Southern Europe to heat and no rain and just great weather, but Aveiro decided to greet me this way, which was it was not a precursor for anything that happened later. It was probably the worst storm that happened while I lived there, at least, and I hope you guys have not been experiencing stuff like that since. Then probably one of my favorite parts of the whole PhD was getting to visit Brazil 2 times. First in 2014, and those pictures are from a trip that me, Carlos, and Juan Carlos did on the left. We went to, I don't remember the name of the island that we went to, but there was an island outside of Belém, where we stayed by a beach in a small hotel, where I think the most memorable part, Carlos, at least for me and probably for you as well, is that I was bitten like 200 times by some mosquitoes one night, and we were thinking about whether a helicopter needed to pick me up, because I guess they liked my Icelandic blood or something. So that was a fun one. The year later, we got to go there again. And then we got to go into the forest with Crispino. And I wanted to ask earlier, Crispino, whether someone had climbed an acai tree in the 10 years since I did it. So it was a really, really, really nice trip. It was probably, I'm not going to say the highlight of the whole thing, but getting to go into the forest, tying like leaves around my feet and climbing an acai tree. I mean, I tell my kids about that probably once a year still, because it's like it was amazing. It was amazing. And honestly, getting to meet that old man in the forest as well, and just like, yeah, it was really, really nice, and I'll probably remember it until I die. Then there are a bunch of other trips, namely me and Pedro went to GR21 in New York, where it was weird. Most of my pictures from New York in 2016 were from the American Museum of Natural History, where me and Pedro spent a day taking pictures of moon rocks and meteorites and a lot of dinosaurs. There was only a single picture from Colombia when I guess I was entering it for the first time. So it was an interesting thing. I did have this, which was I received an award, the James B. Hartle Award, which was given for the best student presentation at the session that I was presenting at GR21. So that was a nice memorabilia sort of the trip. And then on it, obviously, there were a bunch of other trips. We went to Rome to the Marshall Grossman 14th meeting. I got to spend a week in Meudon at the Paris Observatory there. Me and Pedro went to Trento to an Einstein toolkit workshop up in the mountains above Trento, which was really, really nice. And then obviously visiting Coimbra, Lisbon, Braga, all of those places during my PhD was also amazing. And I hope to be back to Portugal one day. Yeah, okay. So today I am senior software engineer at CCB Games, which is an old Icelandic video game company which was founded in 1999 out of the .com bubble. So they were like initially creating virtual worlds in the 90s with like polygon characters and stuff, and they like this huge .com bubble was then eventually burst, but they somehow managed to make a video game company out of that and created a space-based video game that has been going since, essentially, called EVE Online. It's a huge video game. There's been over 1 million players who've played it over the last 22 years, I think. It's actually funny. I went to this company when in 2007 during like a science trip during my bachelor's degree. And I kind of thought like, wait, actually, I like video games. I like space. Maybe I could work here one day. And then 15 years later, I ended up getting a job there. But I'm working on a different game now, which I can tell you a little bit about. I can tell you about the work that I am doing on the game, but I can't show you anything from the game because it is under a strict NDA. And I mostly work as a Python programmer and a C++ programmer on that game. But due to the background that we all share, I've also been conscripted as an astrophysics consultant for both the game design team, which is trying to design what they call a grounded in science video game, and the art department, which wants to make cool art. And you can see from the logo of the game that there's a black hole there, right? So I'll tell you a little bit about that. So this is a message from our chat server. I've blanked out the names of the people who don't want to show their names, where the art director of the project was basically asking me and another physicist who work here whether it would be possible to ray trace a space-time with 3 black holes in it. My first instinct was obviously to go to the archive and start researching stuff, and I even sent Pedro an email to ask him whether he knew about anything where people might have ray traced 3 black holes. He didn't, but we discussed some solutions which might be an inspiration for what I might do, such as the Mayumdar Papa Petro solution and stuff like that. I ended up cheating because I'm not in academia anymore. I'm allowed to cheat. I'm just making video games. So we say that a lot, the physicist here, me and the other one, that if we have to solve a differential equation and it makes it much easier to just cheat a bit than we can, making simple assumptions and stuff. So the first thing that I did is I basically just plopped 3 Schwarzschild black holes together into a metric, and I wrote ray tracer using automatic differentiation, which means that it didn't really care whether this was a solution to Einstein's equations or not. You just needed a metric, and then you could do the whole thing and actually ray trace in it. So you can see like the first results there where I did have 3 black holes and I was tracing rays in it, whether it's physical or not was not really a question. And then being inspired, I pressed too far. So being inspired by our color scheme from our, 2014 paper, I obviously had to ray trace the whole thing. And you basically, the result was that even though this is not is a non-physical metric, it definitely doesn't solve Einstein's equations. Using at least the ray tracing methods that I did, you get something that, I mean, you guys might believe it even. It's like, okay, it does kind of show you, okay, I don't know if you see my cursor, but you know, you have the smaller black hole, there's stuff going around it, there's the eyebrows that we've seen in our papers and stuff like that. So it was close enough. The interesting thing is that this is not great material for a video game, obviously. So I hand this over to our art department that then goes into software like Blender or something like that and created this image. Which is like, okay, so they were inspired by what I did and then threw in a bunch of stuff, which makes it like, okay, great. This isn't actually ray tracing anymore. They're just putting some shaders on some stuff and modifying things. So that's why I call it a consultant role when I do stuff like this, because I don't actually get to kind of finish the work in a sense, because I usually hand it over to the artists. Then another interesting thing that I got to do here is that for a video game, I was in a team which was supposed to take care of something called world building for the video game, which is, and this is a video that I'm going to start playing now. And world building is just what it sounds like. It's basically the design and intent of the world that the video game happens in. And from the message you saw earlier, our creative director was kind of obsessed about this 3 black hole scenario. And so he asks, how can that happen? I, again, go to the archive, go to Google Scholar, start looking at things and kind of suspect the answer, like, sure, okay, you have to get 3 galaxies and you have to smash them together. And then you get 3 supermassive black holes at the core, hopefully, if none of them slingshots away, 3 supermassive black holes at the core of a galaxy. And then they ask, okay, and can you do that? So I had to, again, I mean, sure, you can do antibody simulations. It's a pretty solved field. So that's basically what you're watching. And I'm going to pause it here. So it's 3 galaxies that are formed using something called the Hernquist prescription for forming galaxies. We're doing like initial conditions for galaxies. Throw that into an n-body solver, smash them together, press pause, and now you're looking at the galaxy of Eve Frontier that the players will be playing in. So that was a lot of fun. All Newtonian stuff though. So, but it was a really, really fun project. And we did actually get, it was like for me, I did most of the work, but there was, we did have a bachelor student from the university here join us to do this as a sort of end of bachelor's degree project at the university. So it was a lot of fun as well, because I got to supervise a bit. If you want to learn more about this, since this is a video game company and they're all online and everything is recorded, we actually have a huge convention of all of our players, or not all of them obviously, but a lot of them that come to Iceland every 2 years to something called the Eve Fan Fest, which has been happening since like 2006, I think, where they basically come and gather in a huge convention hall, and we tell them about what we're working on, and they can ask us questions and stuff. And I've gave these 2 talks earlier this year where they chose the title "Inventing the Universe" is probably too much flair for me, but that's what they wanted to call it. And then I also gave like a general public talk about black holes, where I got to tell them about just black holes in general for the players. So you can find both of these on YouTube. You can't actually search for my name on them because you can see my dev name, because we try to stay anonymous towards our players in case of bad people. So you see that my dev name is actually CCP relativistic. So we all have a CCP and then some name that we get to choose, and I chose relativistic. Like I told you earlier, I can't actually show you the game that I'm working on. But I can show you a little toy game that I made in my own free time. Did this come in on the screen, right? Yeah, okay. Which is basically a small video game where you as a player have a gun that shoots rays around a black hole and traces it in real time. It's a lot of fun. I got to practice some video game development because when I was new here, there wasn't a lot of, I'm not going to say not a lot of help, but they didn't They just thought I could program and threw me in the deep end, and I had to learn. So I wanted to learn how to do some graphics and stuff like that. And I thought, what better way to do it than actually do some of the ray tracing that I did in my PhD, but make it a video game. So that's it from me. Just again, thank you, Carlos, for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to talk here. But honestly, mostly listen in, because that was like the most beneficial for me, getting to listen to what everyone has been doing and is doing and is going to do. And just nice seeing everyone again. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Helgi. It was really an amazing testimony, and it's really nice to see different walks of life and how you're using these abilities that you've learned.
We can work everywhere, right?
It's amazing. Amazing. It's amazing. And I'm sure that if people are interested, can just contact you, right? And send you a message. Yeah. Thank you. Well, sure. It's really great. And it was great to see you. So take care, and
likewise.
Hopefully meet you at some point.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Helgi. Bye-bye. Okay. And